What is up, guys? It's your boy Flash from Flash Hobbies, and on the last series that we did on this, we had just finished cutting out the windows for the body. We added the body and the cage in the back, and now let's go ahead and remove the body here. Alright, and if you guys remember, I did a video on this. This was one of my late night eBay buys. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave the link down below in the description. Basically, I had bought this as a roller, and I had some plans for it, but basically I think it was more beneficial for me just to strip parts from it and add it onto my current builds and then get rid of this chassis. So in addition to the one that I have back here, I also bought this one off of eBay, and this one I got really cheap, and I had some plans for it. It looks like they had put a slash 4x4 diff on the front, or they were going to attempt to, and I don't know, this was kind of a Frankenstein build because you have one color arm and then you have a stock slash 4x4 arm. These are T-Max shocks, so there's a whole lot going on here, but you know, for me to just kind of take this build over and finish it, I thought it was going to be way too much and too much effort for really the payout that I was going to get. So I'm just going to strip the Bellcrank from here, and I'm probably going to take these links and these shocks and put them on different builds. So this one's going to be a complete junker, and I'm just going to use it for parts. There's nothing in here. See, there's no motor, there's no tranny, there's a lot missing from here. So I think it's just more beneficial for me to just strip parts from it. So basically I'm going to go ahead and start gutting this and just take off everything that I want. So I want the aluminum link holders down here. I want this aluminum shock holder. I'm going to take this fuel cell since it's already painted, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. The Bellcrank, like I said, I'm taking off of this, and that's pretty much it. The rest of it I'm just going to get rid of, and I'm going to use these shocks and these for future builds. There's no way, there's no sense in wasting these parts, so I can always use them for something else. Alright, so I've removed this top plate here to expose the Bellcrank, and then this is as simple as just popping the whole thing off and then just transferring it over to this one. So that one's going to be a lot harder because there's a lot more stuff in the way. Alright, and we have all the pieces that I wanted from that one rig, and now it's time to take off stuff from number 2 so then we can put it on to number 3. Alright, and for number 2, what I'm going to remove that I want are the titanium links, this hot racing steering. I'm going to use both of these parts. I am also going to remove this pumpkin cover. It's pretty nice. It's a hot racing poison spider aluminum pumpkin cover, and then these aluminum links in the back. And I also forgot to mention, I have this steel universal shaft that I'm also going to remove from it. Alright, and here we have all the parts that I was able to pull out. So unfortunately, the drive shaft, I was only able to pull out half of it. The other half has a strip screw, and I've already tried with the Dremel and Easy Out, and I couldn't get it out. So it is what it is. I won't be able to do that. I'll look around and see if I have any spare parts. Basically, the part that I need is this little end piece right here. But anyways, we have the titanium links, we have the turnbuckles. I'm sorry, the turnbuckles. The I can't remember what these are called, but these are for the front. The casters. I actually found these that I had from another project. I'm going to see if I can fit those on the ends. Took off the steering Bellcrank, the aluminum diff cover, the back mount, link mounts, and then the titanium rear links as well. So pretty much these will be all the parts that go on to number 3. Oh, and I also forgot the fuel cell, but that's not really an upgrade. It's just it's been painted. Alright, we finally made it to number 3. So let's go ahead and start putting these parts on. So one of the first things that we're going to change on here is this Bellcrank, just because this is probably going to be the hardest thing to get to and fix. Now, I took this one off of the Yeti score that I got off of eBay, so there's no branding on this, so I'm assuming this is just kind of like a China cheap version. So I don't think this is like a hot racing or anything like that, but let's go ahead and install it. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is remove a bunch of screws. We'll get this cable out of the way. So we have to remove this one, here, there's 4 here, and then 2, and then another 2, just to get to that Bellcrank. So it's going to be a bit of a pain, but let's go ahead and take those out. And I forgot to mention, I don't know why Axial did this, but there's a screw right here that goes all the way through to the bell crank on top. So there's another screw that's just like this on the top. So you have to have two of these 2mm hexes, one here and then one on the top to unscrew. Okay, so now that we have that, this just pops off. Okay, so now that we have that cover lifted, this is going to be another lengthy process, but we have to remove this screw here for the link to the servo. Then we have to remove this one right here for the link that goes to the wheel, and there's one exactly like this on the opposite side right over here. And then we're going to have to unscrew the drive shaft because the steering goes right underneath it, and then it should be able to just lift right up. Hopefully it's not too bad. So here we have this one removed, and you can just move it to the side or, you know, wherever you want to put it, whatever makes it easy for you. Now we're going to remove these two. Alright, so now we have both of those removed, and I just kind of move these to the end so the wheel's now loose. There's nothing that turns it. And the next step is to unscrew the screw here from the drive shaft. If the screw's not facing you, you can turn the back wheels and it should show you right there. So that's the one we're going to need to remove down here. So of course, Axial being Axial, they made it a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be to get down here. So in order to remove this, yeah, you have to remove that one screw, but you also have to remove these 4 screws, and then you have to loosen each one right here, the ones that hold the arms in, the big long one. You just unscrew them, not all the way, but just enough to give you some flex. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to bend the front like this and then pull on that drive shaft until it pops out. And that's the only way to get to it. But as you can see now, the bell crank is down here, and we can finally just remove it and replace it with a new one. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to position them, goes one here and one on the outside. So we'll line them up right there and line this one up, and then boom, direct drop in. And there you go. And then we just have to reassemble like we did before. So I'll have to put the drive shaft in first, and then we can put the 4 screws that are under this, and then close the 2 screws that we took from here. And then after that, we can put the servo arm back on, and then we can put the whole top back. Okay, so we've dropped in our aluminum bell crank here. Next thing is to insert the drive shaft. I'll move the wheel so that, okay, got it in there. Now we need to get it in on this side. So again, you got to just flex the front and then kind of force it in there. And I hate to use the word force, but that's literally what you have to do with this drive shaft. Okay, once the drive shaft is in, now we can put the screw here. Okay, so we have our grub screw right here, and we'll go ahead and start putting that one in. Try to get some resistance there. You don't want to over tighten it because then it'll be hard to get out. And then the next step is to put the 4 screws back into here, and then retighten the 2 screws that we loosened up in the front. Okay, now that those are all in place, the final step is going to be putting the top back on and then putting all those screws back on there. Now the top, I would start and put it in this way first. So kind of put it with where the front is, and then kind of start moving it around until you hear it kind of click, and you see how it just fell into place. Now we just need to put all the screws back into place. So the reason why I chose to do this one first is just because I thought it was going to be the most time consuming, and so far it's proving me right. I thought it was going to be just a couple steps, but looks like we had to take an extra couple steps in order just to get to that bell crank. So I'm kind of glad we went with that one first. All the other ones should be very easy, and they're easily accessible. Okay, and the last screw that we're going to do is this one. Again, you're going to need either 2 of these. What I used is just a regular hex, a little Allen wrench, and I'm keeping that on the bottom. Okay, and there we go. That's the first upgrade. Now, if you don't have any extra links, this is the step where you would come in and basically connect your links down here in between, and then you pass your screw through. So I'm going to leave these alone just because I have to change the whole front end as well. So I'm changing the links, and I'm also changing here the turnbuckles. I'm sorry, the casters in the front I'm also changing. So that's going to be our next upgrade there. So in order to work on the front end, first we got to take off the tires. So what we're using here, oh, it's on there pretty tight, so we're going to have to use our pliers here. And I can't remember correctly, I think this is a 7mm nut that's on here. My little wrench doesn't say what number it is. I just know it works for this because I've used it so many times. And I actually did find the number on the wrench. If you see there's a 7, so I thought I hadn't even seen that before. We're learning as we're going, people. Okay, so we have those removed, and the next thing that we're going to have to take off is the actual caster itself. So we have to take one screw off here, and that'll release your other link, and then one screw down here, and this will release the block. And the final screw is going to come off right here. There's one screw there, and that's going to let your link come loose, and then your dog bone will come out with the whole entire assembly. So I'm going to start with this one first. So there's a nut behind that screw. There's the little nut. Then you can just pop it out from behind, and if you have your little pliers, you should be able to just pop it out. Just got to get the right angle on it, I guess. Alright, and there's our screw. So you see how that released our link. Now our dog bone is loose, we can just pop it off. And then this bottom one is also going to have a nut on there. And you see, now the whole thing is popped off. We don't really need any of this. I don't need any of it. Most likely you will. That's why I said you'll have to remove this one so that way you can get your link back. And then this one you can remove from here, and that would have been on your Bellcrank down there. But for my purpose, I don't need it. So before I put this one on, I'm going to clean it up a little bit because it's a little oily and grassy. So let me clean that up, and then we'll do the install. So here, this says L and L, so this has left and left. And obviously if you can see, the truck is facing me, so it's on the left side. If the truck was facing away from me, left. We'll start by putting the screw back here on the bottom, so that way it can hang on to the arm. So that part is on there. Then we can put our dog bone back in. Then just make sure it connects in with the other part, the cup here. And then just kind of turn it just to make sure that it's turning. Next thing is going to be our link that goes in here. And it looks like it's going to be just a tad bit short, so I'm going to have to extend them a little bit. Okay, so I extended it just a couple turns, just enough to get it over here. And I just put the nut in here, so let me tighten this up. And again, you want to tighten this until you get just a little bit of resistance, which I just got right now. And everything is good. And again, just spin it. Make sure everything is turning. I can see the other side is spinning, so it's working. And then just kind of go up and down with it and just make sure there's no binding. Alright, and then it's the turn buckle here, the turn caster is not set up yet, because I still have the other link to put on. So that'll be the next thing I'll do. I'll go ahead and dry fit this and just make sure it fits correctly, and then I'll show you what screws you need. Okay, so down here is where you put your screw. So you'll put your link in between, and then you run your screw through. Okay, and now that we got it back here, we're gonna have to follow and see which one of the 3 holes it fits into to where it sits straight. And we might be able to shorten this a little bit. So I ended up going with the middle hole. And we'll see once I put the tire on there, I might have to make an adjustment, but that's okay. That's very easy to move even with the wheel on. So the last step is to actually get your wheel on. Luckily for us, these don't have any particular tread pattern, so whichever way you put it, that's the way it'll work. So once you have your wheel on, just make sure it's all the way on the hex. And again, you just get your driver here, and then just start going in until you feel some resistance, and then just go probably about half a turn more once you start getting that resistance. So you see right now, it's very free. I can feel that resistance. I probably do another half turn, and that's secure enough for that wheel. So some things that I'm gonna have to work on instantly right now is the camber. It's definitely off a little bit, so I'm gonna have to adjust this and you can also adjust it by moving it in another circle in here. So, you know, that's the thing about putting different links. They don't come exactly the same length like stock. But the good thing is, if you are upgrading, you can always just use your old one as a reference, and that's how long it should be, right? So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this other side, and it's exactly the same way as this side. So if you want to know how to do it, just kind of rewind back on the video, and it's the same thing, just on the opposite side. So let me go ahead and finish this. Alright, and there we have it. The whole front end's installed. We have the titanium links on both sides. The wheels are pretty straight. And I think it's still going to need just a little bit of tuning, but I'll run it and see how it runs basically. If there's any adjustments that need to be made, then I'll make the adjustments on here. So the next upgrade, which is not really an upgrade, is going to be this one. This one's very easy. I'm not even going to walk you through it. All I'm going to tell you is there's one screw here, comes off. I'm just going to replace that. Real simple. Okay, the next thing that we're going to upgrade is going to be this. So we're taking off the stock one and we're putting on this one here. This is the Poison Spider aluminum pumpkin diff cover. So that one's easy. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 1.5 millimeter screws that you have to remove for that. Once you have your 4 screws removed, it just pops off. And actually, I just found a very good surprise. Let me show you. So on number 2, I had my suspicions, but I wasn't 100% sure. So this is a diff locker, and then we have the, I hope I just say this right, the helical cut gear on there. So I'm definitely going to remove this one and take this one out. See, the biggest difference is these are straight cut, and this is like a cheaper metal, and this looks like a more premium metal, and they're helical cut. So that's going to be, you can put more power through this, and it's going to last longer. So another upgrade that we can use. And the way to remove this is basically you have to just take all this grease off. There's 4 screws that are going to pop off from here. It's basically a holder. You'll have to remove these so that this can come out, your tubes can come out and actually release from your pinion here, because this right here goes all the way down your axle and connects in here. So yeah, there's a couple screws you have to remove, but this is definitely going to be worth it. So you see the difference here. This has like a little diff housing. This does not. And the gears, they look so much better and more high quality metal than these. And as you can see, I'm not sure if this shows up on film, but they're already starting to chip on some of the teeth. So good thing we looked at this, because it's almost time, well, basically it is time for it to be replaced. So I'm definitely going to be dropping this one in for sure. So one of the first things that you have to do is, your tubes are loose. So I've already dropped in the new one that I want to put. Here you can see the beef tube moving around. You'll just have to find where it fits in. And there it goes on this side. And then we got to do the same for the other side. The next thing that we have are these. So basically what these are holders. They go on each side here and they hold your bearing. And there's 1 screw and 2. And then there's a 3 and 4, and that's going to hold this in place. So the next thing you want to do is put your caps back on both sides. And then just make sure that they line up with the holes. So you can see the cap is on here, it's on here. Now there's 1 screw here, 1 here, and then there's 1 on the opposite side and 1 on this side as well. Okay, the next thing to do is to grab your pins here and pop them back on each side, and then you put your hex on, and then you put your wheels back on. And that's it for that part. So as far as for this, if you want to use any type of grease, now would be the time to put it in there. I already have some in there, and I've already checked the gear mesh, and it's pretty good. So there's no binding, and I'm glad that this was another upgrade that I can put on here. All right, now the final step is to put your hot racing cap on there, put your 4 screws, and you're all set. And then we're done with this upgrade. Alright, now we finished with that one, and it looks really good, especially with the shocks in the back there. And the next upgrade is going to be our metal links, and we're going to have to replace these. Alright, Alright, so in order to do the upper links, we got to remove a screw here, and then there's one screw here that holds both links together, and then there's also a screw just like this on the opposite side, and this does have a nut, so you will need something to hold the nut there. So I'm just going to use my little needle nose pliers that I have here, and then we start unscrewing. Alright, and then we just finished the same thing for this side. If for some reason this screw is kind of hard to get out, you can definitely use your pliers here, and then just grab it from the thread, and it should pop right off. So now, if you pull back on them, they both should pop out at the same time. Okay, and for this one, it's just one screw that holds both links together, but you will have to remove the tire in order to hold this, unless you have an Allen wrench that's L-shaped and you can fit it in here, which I do not have right now. So the wheel has been removed, and the only difference here is you're going to need a 2.5mm hex. Okay, now that that's been removed, we can go ahead and just use our pliers again and kind of just take it out. There you go. Both links now came off. That's simple. Now the next thing to do is just reverse the process and then install them into here. Really what you want to do is actually start with that side and then finish off here at the end. So as my assistant will show you, we're going to start right here. You kind of just push it in. Then you're going to start with your screw. So now that we have it started off, you use your 2mm to kind of finish pushing it through. And then you're going to have to use your pliers and hold the nut on the other side to get that attached, and then we'll repeat for the other side. Okay, so here are both of our links. Now the last thing to do is just kind of raise up your solid axle here and get that last screw in there. Okay, so it's through. So one rule of thumb is with the axial score, I would get the ones that are curved, just because if you notice here, the pumpkin's off to the side and the shaft is off to the side. And you see how it doesn't rub up against the shock, but it's awful close. Even when compressed, it gets pretty close. So make sure that you get the curved ones. If you get the straight ones, you have a likelihood that it'll bind inside of the spring here, because it might come straight through. These are also, they're kind of curved at an angle. But I basically measured these with these, so they're the same length. Last thing to do is just kind of test it and make sure that it doesn't bind on any of the shocks, which it does not. And then the last step is to put your wheel back on. And on to the next upgrade. So just a disclaimer, as I was doing this video, I wasn't really paying attention to the upper links here, and I probably should have done these first, because now I'm going to have to unscrew them and redo them again, but that's okay. But anyways, this is going to be the next upgrade that we do. I don't know the exact name of this part, but I do know that this is basically the link holder. So your lower trailing arms go right here, and then you have adjustability with the upper links, which I'm just going to stick with the top one as where it sits right now. And that's it. We're going to replace both sides. It's good because the way this vehicle is set up, it takes a lot of pounding in the back right here, and this could potentially be a good weak point. Either the links or the arms are just going to put so much pressure on this plastic that it might just break. Now, I've never actually had that happen, but it is a definite possibility. So this should give it some more stiffness. In addition to, it goes screwed onto the rest of the chassis, so I feel like it would give it overall just more rigidity. And that's kind of what I want, because this is definitely going to get bashed pretty bad. So for this part, you're going to need your pliers again and your 2mm. You're just going to have to remove this top link and the lower trailing arm, and we're gonna have to do that for both sides, and then we can actually remove one screw from up here, and we'll show you that. And again, this is part of the headaches with filming some stuff. You don't know which order you're gonna film it in or when you're gonna be able to film it, so this is probably something that I should have done before I did the upper links, but that's okay. Either way, we gotta learn, and we're gonna get through it anyways. Pull your screw out. So the top link has been released. Next thing is to do the lower trailing arm. Same thing, except this one doesn't have a nut on the other side. It's screwed into the actual chassis. And this is a bit of a longer screw as well. Alright, so now we pull that screw. You see how long that screw is? and your lower arm should just come off. So now your rear has no support because we've released it from its point of contact. So this is kind of what gives it its symmetry. So the next thing to do with this is it's still not removable because there's one screw on top here, and I'll show you that. So the next thing that we have to do is remove this one, and this is also a 2mm screw. Now we'll show you something different with this particular aluminum piece that I'm about to show you. So let me take this one off. The screw comes off. Okay, and then there's two screws that hold it right here. There's 1 and 2. These are also 2mm, and we'll have to remove those. Okay, so here, remember I told you that there's something different about this aluminum piece. So if you look right here, it looks like it has this little support beam that goes all the way down. This one does not have it, but it comes with its own little piece. So essentially, I'm going to have to just fit this on there while I'm putting the screw in, and that'll be the support. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be a weak point later on, but I guess we'll figure that one out, right? So for this one, I'm actually going to start with the top piece first so I can get that support in, and then everything else should be able to go into place. So I test fitted this before I started recording, and the best thing to do is to put the screw through and then put that loose piece in, and then, sorry if the camera's going to get a little jiggly here, but I want to show you this. Then you can insert your aluminum piece here, and it'll catch right there. And then you can start to screw in, and as you screw in, it'll go in, and then it'll hold itself. Alright, so as you can see there, we have that piece in there, and like I said, as we screwed it in, it just got tighter and tighter, so it worked out pretty well. So now the next thing is going to be to put the 2 screws back here. Then we're going to put the 1 screw here for our lower link, and then our screw for our upper link. Alright, and that's it right there. Everything is nice and snug where it needs to be. Again, we're going to test it to see if everything can move up freely, which it can. So now we're going to repeat the same process on the other side. Alright, and there you go. We got it on both sides here. So that upgrade is now complete. Looks really good too. Kind of digging the green and blue mixture. Looks pretty good. So the next upgrade that we're going to do is for the upper shock mounts. So this one comes with this real thin plastic one that's pretty flimsy. Now again, I've never had any of these actually break on me, but you know, I'm trying to reinforce it the best I can. So that's the next upgrade, is this one. And it also gives you a multi-adjustment. This one only gives you one, so that's pretty cool too. But I'm going to leave it on the stock one because it's worked out for me pretty well. So this one is actually going to be super easy. It's just 2 screws. You have one here and one there, also with your 2mm. So once these pop off, you just replace it with the new one and put everything back into place. It's that simple. Alright, so like I said, it's pretty simple. So you're going to start off with your 2mm here, and let's start with this rear one. And we'll take that screw off. So that one comes straight off. And there's a little piece that came off. It does come with an extra ball end in there. I'm not sure if that comes stock from the company or if I try doing a dual shock. I guess we'll know. You know what it is for? Now I remember, they put that little ball in there just to give this some support, because without it, it's pretty flimsy. So now we'll do the second one, which is the actual shock itself. Alright, so let's take that screw off. Now the next thing is the plate just comes off by itself here. You just gotta pull it a little bit, and there it goes. You can leave your shock in there because we really don't have to do anything besides just switch the plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ball back in just to give it that extra little support. That's the whole point of this, is just to reinforce this top part. Then the next one goes straight through our shock as well. And we'll put that one into place as well. Get everything nice and tight and lined up, so it should feel just snug enough on there. And the rear one. Alright, we got a little snugness on there, and there you go. There's your upgraded upper brace, and that's going to be a lot more stronger than that plastic one that was on there before. And I will just repeat the same process for the other side. All right, and there we go. Here's the other side. Now both sides are complete, and again, I'm really liking this whole green blue mixture thing. It looks really cool. So I'm really digging that. All right, guys, and that's gonna do it for our upgrade series on this truck right now. The last thing that I wanted to upgrade, like I said, was gonna be the drive shaft, but unfortunately, I could not get that other piece out. So I'm going to see if I can order an in for this, because I don't know what brand name this is, and see if I can figure something out. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know if there's anything else I should upgrade on this. I've been considering looking at some rear aluminum arms for this truck, and possibly an upgrade on the sway bar. So just let me know what you think. Leave any questions down below. Don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe. We drop a video every single week. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.